Let's start with Vaclav Havel. A viewer sent me his essay, "The Power of the Powerless," and suggested that my point about these signs that we're seeing in windows, which I'm calling "Don't Hurt Me" displays, is very much like what he talks about in the third part of his essay, which I'm going to read today. But first, let me just remind viewers of who he was. He died, 10 years ago, something like that. He was a Czech playwright and essayist, a political dissident who founded, among other organizations, the Committee for the Defense of the Unjustly Prosecuted, and he was a political prisoner for many years. His political party played a primary role in the Velvet Revolution, which removed the communists from power in Czechoslovakia in 1989. And following that, Havel was the last president of Czechoslovakia through 1992. And then following the dissolution of Czechoslovakia, he was the first president of the Czech Republic through 2003. So he wrote this essay, The Power of the Powerless, and the whole thing is worth a read. But here is a somewhat long excerpt from it. The manager of a fruit and vegetable shop places in his window, among the onions and carrots, the slogan, "Workers of the world, unite." Why does he do it? What is he trying to communicate to the world? Is he genuinely enthusiastic about the idea of unity among the workers of the world? Is his enthusiasm so great that he feels an irrepressible impulse to acquaint the public with his ideals? Has he really given more than a moment's thought to how such a unification might occur and what it would mean? I think it can safely be assumed that the overwhelming majority of shopkeepers never think about the slogans they put in their windows, nor do they use them to express their real opinions. That poster was delivered to our greengrocer from the enterprise headquarters along with the onions and carrots. He put them all into the window simply because it has been done that way for years, because everyone does it, and because that is the way it has to be. If he were to refuse, there could be trouble. He could be reproached for not having the proper decoration in his window. Someone might even accuse him of disloyalty. He does it because these things must be done if one is to get along in life. It is one of the thousands of details that guarantee him a relatively tranquil life, in harmony with society, as they say. Obviously, the greengrocer is indifferent to the semantic content of the slogan on exhibit. He does not put the slogan in his window from any personal desire to acquaint the public with the ideal it expresses. This, of course, does not mean that his action has no motive or significance at all, that the slogan communicates nothing to anyone. The slogan is really a sign, and as such it contains a subliminal but very definite message. Verbally, it might be expressed this way. I, the greengrocer, live here and I know what I must do. I behave in the manner expected of me. I can be depended upon and am beyond reproach. I am obedient, and therefore I have the right to be left in peace. This message, of course, has an addressee. It is directed above to the greengrocer's superior, and at the same time it is a shield that protects the greengrocer from potential informers. The slogan's real meaning, therefore, is rooted firmly in the greengrocer's existence. It reflects his vital interests. But what are those vital interests? Let us take note. If the greengrocer had been instructed to display the slogan, "I am afraid and therefore unquestioningly obedient," he would not be nearly as indifferent to its semantics, even though the statement would reflect the truth. The greengrocer would be embarrassed and ashamed to put such an unequivocal statement of his own degradation in the shop window, and quite naturally so, for he is a human being and thus has a sense of his own dignity. To overcome this complication, his expression of loyalty must take the form of a sign which, at least on its textual surface, indicates a level of disinterested conviction. It must allow the greengrocer to say, "What's wrong with the workers of the world uniting?" Thus, the sign helps the greengrocer to conceal from himself the low foundations of his obedience, at the same time concealing the low foundations of power. It hides them behind the facade of something high, and that something is ideology. Ideology is a specious way of relating to the world. It offers human beings the illusion of an identity, and of dignity, and of morality while making it easier for them to part with them. As the repository of something superpersonal and objective, it enables people to deceive their conscience and conceal their true position and their inglorious modus vivendi, both from the world and from themselves. It is a very pragmatic, but, at the same time, an apparently dignified way of legitimizing what is above, below, and on either side. It is directed toward people and toward God. It is a veil behind which human beings can hide their own fallen existence, their trivialization, and their adaptation to the status quo. It is an excuse that everyone can use, from the greengrocer who conceals his fear of losing his job behind an alleged interest in the unification of the workers of the world, to the highest functionary whose interest in staying in power can be cloaked in phrases about service to the working class. The primary excusatory function of ideology, therefore, is to provide people, both as victims and pillars of the post-totalitarian system, with the illusion that the system is in harmony with the human order and the order of the universe. The smaller a dictatorship and the less stratified by modernization the society under it, the more directly the will of the dictator can be exercised. In other words, the dictator can employ more or less naked discipline, avoiding the complex processes of relating to the world and of self-justification which ideology involves. But the more complex the mechanisms of power become, the larger and more stratified the society they embrace, and the longer they have operated historically, the more individuals must be connected to them from outside, and the greater the importance attached to the ideological excuse. It acts as a kind of bridge between the regime and the people, across which the regime approaches the people and the people approach the regime. This explains why ideology plays such an important role in the post-totalitarian system, that complex machinery of units, hierarchies, transmission belts, and indirect instruments of manipulation which ensure in countless ways the integrity of the regime, leaving nothing to chance, would be quite simply unthinkable without ideology acting as its all-embracing excuse, and as the excuse for each of its parts. So he's writing about the state, of course, and the way that the will of the state is exercised by apparently free actions by people who are, he is pointing out, of course, not free at all. And while there are certainly state excesses in every state and right now for us, most of what we have been talking about here has been the excesses of the new ideology, the new religion in John McWhorter's framing that is coming from the pseudo-left, the far left. And it is exactly the same tactics.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure that it's different in any regard. In other words, the state...
Only that it's not the state.
Well, yet.
It's becoming the state.
It's becoming the state, or it is threatening to become the state very quickly. And this is the thing that is so frightening to those of us who are watching this train wreck unfold in slow motion, is that we have a cynical political party toying with this ideology, basically imagining falsely that it can use this ideology to its own ends, which you and I have seen unfold exactly. At Evergreen, this is exactly what explained George Bridges empowering this movement 3 years ago. And it dismantled the college, and the college has not recovered. It is continuing to double down as of this most recent week on these same ideas. I learned there are these things called institutes, which you know. Summer institutes at Evergreen are little meetings on topics that occur during the summer that faculty participate in. And there was apparently one done remotely this year because of COVID, in which the assembled faculty were apparently enamored of the idea that they should put up memorials to the protesters from 2017. Which is just staggering in light of the spectacular decline the college has taken as a result of the action of these people and their faculty instigators.
So that's exactly analogous to, yes, what Havel is talking about here, and the signs and windows, and the now ritual repeating of we are on the stolen lands of the people who came before us at the beginning of, for instance, live theater in many places. But also what happened at Yale. With the Christakises, where the chief instigator of the protests that became much more than protests against Nicholas Christakis ended up being awarded the award by Yale, and I don't remember exactly what it was called, but it was basically the award for contributing the most to easing racial tensions on campus. I can't even say it with a straight face, right? Yep. So yes, let's erect a monument to the protesters at Evergreen on the Evergreen campus, and what will those who come after, what will the archaeologists at the college who could start acting there pretty quickly, depending on how quickly it falls, what will they think of that?
Right. What will they think of that? Indeed. And I should say this is obviously not unprecedented in this case, because Evergreen also took the lead protester who became a rioter and kidnapper, Jamil, and put him on the committee to rewrite the Student Code of Conduct. They actually paid him to help rewrite the Student Code of Conduct. So anyway, everything is on its head. I'm reminded there's a scene in Catch-22 in which a squadron has, I believe, dumped their bombs over the ocean in order not to fly over enemy territory, and in order to hide this embarrassment, they are given medals for their bravery or something like this.
Yes, right.
So anyway, Joseph Heller saw this stuff in a military context.
No, and actually that Catch-22 should be on the list of books along with Brave New World and 1984 and Animal Farm for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about the extended, the greengrocer, Havel's greengrocer? And I don't remember which episode it was. I forgot to go back and look. But several episodes ago, I showed several pictures that I just taken in a neighborhood in Southwest Portland that morning, showing how many businesses are, I said then, feeling compelled, putting up these don't hurt me displays of, from as simple as just the Black Lives Matter to, all manner of further ideological support beyond that. And I don't think that almost anyone who's doing it is doing it actually under their own volition, no matter what they would tell you.
No, they rationalize it later, but that's not where it comes from initially.
And that's the brilliance of, how Havel lived this.
Right. Now, so I do have two things to say. One is I'm pretty sure I would have found what he said interesting before the current era, but I wouldn't have understood it, right? Watching, as I ride my bike around and things like this, and I note where, whose lawn is announcing its support of Black lives and, which theaters are broadcasting it on their marquees and all of this, I have this sort of odd sense of like what's actually going on, and that explains it exactly. I will also say that I am now seeing online and in my personal life people from the former Czechoslovakia who are attempting to reach us Americans with a very important message. And I don't think they have it perfectly right, which is bad because it means it's going to be harder for the massive part that is right to get through. But their point is, look, we saw this exact thing, and it preceded something that you do not know is coming, because people, and in fact, somebody said it to me just today on the Patreon discussion that we just finished. They said, up until the moment that the shooting started, people were telling themselves it couldn't happen here. Cooler heads will prevail. And so anyway, I think the problem is that the antagonist is not identical. And so it is going to be easier to dismiss that warning than it should be.
And it never is.
Right.
And of course, there will be some similarities no matter how dissimilar the situation. There will be some dissimilarities no matter how similar. And the trick is figuring out which of the things that might be similar or dissimilar are actually predictive of what happens next.
Yep.
And what we are saying is that, Havel has this very precise level of prediction here around signage popping up. He doesn't actually specify, it being all of a sudden. But to me, the all of a suddenness of it, and the Black Lives Matter signage actually showed up all of a sudden and became this sign of fealty on campus at Evergreen, and I know elsewhere on other campuses as well, back in probably 2016. Actually, this was before, but now, right now, this is on more lawns, this is on more storefronts.